This episode of Legacy Curious is brought to you by Legacy Protectors. Customize insurance strategies for business owners and families who aspire to create a lasting legacy. Hello, and welcome to Legacy Curious. I'm your host, David Gravelle. Today, we're speaking with Robin Owen. She's a speaking coach based in Wellington, New Zealand, who's passionate about helping individuals overcome anxiety and speak with confidence and authenticity. She also works with experienced speakers to refine their message and craft powerful, impactful talk. Robin offers one-on-one coaching either online or in person, creating a supportive space where clients can build skills, boost self-esteem, and speak with greater presence and impact. Her coaching is tailored to each client's goals, whether they're just starting out or looking to sharpen their speaking skills. Let's welcome Robin and learn about her legacy. Hello, Robin, and welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, as I said, from around the world. Maybe tell our audience where you're located and where you're broadcasting from.
So I'm located in Wellington in New Zealand. So yeah,
wonderful, and it's the day after today for you, right? You're a day ahead of us.
I am. I'm speaking from the future. I am speaking on Wednesday today. I think it's Tuesday for you.
And we're Tuesday recording here in Oklahoma City. So again, thanks for joining us, Robin. I'm looking forward to learning more about you. And why don't we just jump right in? And my first question will be can you tell us a bit about what you do and how you help people speak with more confidence?
Right. Well, I work with women and I help them overcome their fear of speaking in front of an audience. So it's interesting because I recently retitled myself from a public speaking coach to a confident speaking coach, because a lot of people think that public speaking is standing up there on a stage in front of a great big audience, and that's sort of like a TED talk. But public speaking is so much more than being on a stage. So it might be speaking in a meeting or leading a meeting or giving a presentation or maybe even going to a networking event. So there's lots and lots of situations where we need to be able to speak with confidence in both our professional and our personal lives. Yeah.
Right. And so what led you to that type of work, Robin? Where was there a moment or experience that sparked it for you?
Well, it all goes back to my childhood, and I won't give you my whole my whole childhood. But as
We
a
would love
child,
it here. Yeah, whatever you're willing to share, we would love to learn.
but as a child, I was an incredibly underconfident child. So I wouldn't speak to anybody. I wouldn't, if somebody asked me a question, I wouldn't really answer them. And so my mother tried to think of ways to help me overcome this. So she sent me to speech and drama training as a child. And there were two paths that you could go down. You could go down the performance path or you could go down the public speaking path. And as I hated speaking, I went down the performance path and avoided the public speaking. So I went through all my exams and I got my associate of the New Zealand Speech Board, which meant I could teach other people. And that was fine. I managed to still avoid public speaking all the way through my early jobs and my early adult life. I still managed to avoid it until I realized eventually that, in fact, I was doing myself a disservice by avoiding speaking up, because I was missing out on opportunities and things. So I eventually got some help. And then fast forward a few years ago, I found out about some coaching to actually help women overcome their fear of speaking. And it was like, this was just seemed like come full circle. It was a natural fit. So that's how I got into what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Okay. And you had kind of alluded to it in your answer there, but maybe speak to some of the consequences of not speaking up. Some for you personally, but maybe what you've seen in some of your colleagues or some other people that you've been engaged with.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You don't always realize the consequences immediately, but they do kind of creep up on you or they have a cumulative effect. So for me, I wasn't being put forward for, pieces of work or to be on projects. was overlooked this was in my early working life. And I thought that was a safe thing. I thought that was great initially, but then I realized, of course, later on that I was missing out on all these opportunities. So it can have, effects on your career. It can also have effects on your personal life. So, for example, you might be somebody who doesn't like to speak up, and if somebody else is making all your decisions for you or speaking on your behalf, you often will miss out on doing what you actually want to do. And for me, that was very much, I became quite resentful in the end because I wasn't getting to do what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I wasn't speaking up and saying what I wanted to do. So, yeah, it can have very real consequences in our life. Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm assuming you work with all kinds of speakers, from the nervous first timers to the more experienced speakers. But what are some of the common fears that they all seem to share?
There are a lot of common fears. One of the biggies is that fear of being judged by our peers. That real fear that somebody that we know or trust or like is going to look at us and go, "Oh, they don't know what they're talking about." There's also that fear that maybe we're going to sound boring and that the audience is going to lose interest in what we've got to say. There might be that fear of forgetting what we're going to say and then completely drying up and standing there and just feeling yourself go bright red. There's that fear also that somebody's going to see how nervous we are. They're going to see us shaking or they're going to see us sweating. Um, and then there's that fear of sort of just being in the spotlight, just having all those eyes looking at you. So they're all quite common fears, and there are more. But they are the sorts of things that will stop us from actually speaking up. And it's good though to know that you can actually overcome those fears. So that's the good thing.
Yeah. So your approach, from what I understand, is very, very personal and empowering. How do you support people who think I could never be a confident speaker? How do you help them specifically get over, those negative thoughts that encroach?
Sure. So we start looking at mindset and we look at um, how what their beliefs are as well. And they may have picked up beliefs that they got right at an early age from either home or school or when they first started work about being perhaps told not to speak up or, to be quiet or you're talking too much or, all those things that we get told and we take on board. Um, and then once we've worked our way through some of that, we introduce some tools and techniques that people can use before they speak and as they're speaking. We look at vocal technique, we look at body language, we look at different speaking scenarios. Um, and another big one that I really like using is, well, there's also body language, but another one I really love using is storytelling, because for me, storytelling is a really big part of how we speak, and people love stories. So
Sure,
yeah,
maybe speak a little bit more to that. That seems to me to be an easy way for me to express myself, because I'm drawing on memories and I'm not making it up as I go. I'm relating an experience. Is that one of the reasons why it's so powerful?
it is. And I think stories, everybody can relate to stories. So when you tell a story when you're speaking, you become relatable for a start, but also people can relate to stories. People remember information a lot better if you're sharing it in a story. So it might be something quite technical, but if you're telling a story about it, around it rather, people will remember. And also, stories are a great way to illustrate data. So you often find with the presenter that they will have perhaps a PowerPoint slide that's got all these pie graphs or line graphs or and the speaker might often say, and I've heard this so many times, you won't be able to read this, but, and so your mind just kind of goes,
Sure.
well, not very interesting. But if you make that data about people or people's circumstances, suddenly you're bringing that data to life and people can relate to it. So you might be able to explain a graph by saying, this is what it was like, the people were like, this is the circumstances at this point, and then further down the scale, this is how their life changed. So you're bringing that data to life and you're making it real because it's about people. Yeah.
So it's not only maybe easier to communicate in that method, but it's also, more effective then.
Definitely. And as I say, people remember. and love stories. I mean, we're almost programmed
Yeah,
to remember and like stories. We love hearing people's stories.
sure.
Yeah.
Fireside chat is a very effective tool. So maybe relate to us one of the transformation. Pardon me, I'll start again. Do you have a favorite transformation story? Someone you worked with who really found their voice?
Sure. So, one of my clients was told as a child that she was too much. So, she was too loud, she spoke too much, she used her hands too much, and she was actually told that she needed to sit on her hands.
Huh.
Um, so, which was quite an extreme thing to do, but obviously, whoever had told her must have felt that she was just, too much going on. So as a consequence, she did as she was told, and she stopped using her hands. So when she was speaking, she wasn't really, the reason she came to me was that she needed to be able to speak with more confidence. And part of that was giving her permission to actually start using her hands again,
Right.
because that was part of her. That was part of her true personality and her way of expressing herself. So once she was able to do that, suddenly her whole speaking transformed. She became much more enthusiastic and natural, and her true personality came out. And as a consequence of that, she's now loving speaking and she's really looking forward to speaking engagements. So she's looking for lots of opportunities to speak. So it was really lovely to see from, that giving permission, if you like,
Yeah.
to allow her to be able to just speak naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be very rewarding. So that gets to my next question. Why does this matter so much to you personally?
Well, I think because I came from that background of being so scared of speaking and having that fear, that I am able to totally empathize with what other people go through when it comes to that fear. I totally can relate to what they're saying and I totally understand. So for me, it's really important to be able to help them to appreciate just the freedom that comes from being able to speak without that fear. We still have fears, but there's a way of handling those fears and a way of being able to manage them. So, yeah, it's because I've been through it that I want to help others uh, go past it. Yeah.
So how can this type of improved communication skill affect someone's life beyond the meeting room? What would that look like?
So, once you open up that communication channel, as it were, it just has a sort of almost like a flow-on effect. So somebody might start out and they might start being confident in meetings and they might start giving presentations, but then there might be opportunities for them to talk about something they're really passionate about. And often people will have something within them that they've been wanting to talk about, or there's sort of a real thing inside them they want to share with others. And this is, it opens up those opportunities. It's almost like you've opened up a floodgate. And it might even be something like speaking at local community meetings or council meetings or even school boards or things where you really wouldn't have spoken up before, but because you've got that confidence, you've found your voice basically, and you've given yourself permission to speak up. So yeah.
First off, I want to thank you for the work that you do in this area because I feel personally that my life is impacted greatly when others are able to express themselves. And I feel like society as a whole is cheated when we don't have everyone contributing to the their skill sets and to what they feel is their calling. So thank you for that. And that leads me into my next question on what do you think about when you think of the legacy that you're leaving and what does that look like for you?
Mm. Well, it's interesting because I've been hearing a lot about legacy lately. It's funny once you hear about one thing, suddenly you start hearing about it in lots of
Right.
different places.
Yeah.
And if you'd asked me a few years ago what my legacy was going to be, I would have just kind of looked at you and shrugged my shoulders and thought, oh, I'll think about that later. But you ask me today, and I would say my legacy is to be able to help as many women as possible to find their voice, and to speak what's in their heart and share their message, and be able to yeah, share their message with the world, really. And if I can achieve that, then I know that I will have achieved what I want to achieve, and it will make my heart feel full.
Well, good for you. Well, we're here to support your mission because our channel speaks specifically to women-owned businesses. And, if you've watched some of our videos, you've seen them. And we want to encourage more people to find their voice, get in touch with you and learn, again, maybe some skills that they don't have, or just to give them the confidence. Because I think by having that, I think your legacy will help them express their legacy. Tell us a bit about what you hope to help them achieve with
Sure.
this support.
Mm. Well, my hope is that more and more women will feel empowered to use their voice and make themselves be heard. And that way they can make a difference in their family, they can make a difference in their community, um, in their country, and even globally, and to be able to support, so women being able to support other women along the way too, because women can create amazing things individually, but put us together and we can, we're a force to be reckoned with. And I believe that at the moment, women's voices, especially now, really need to be heard. There's just so much uncertainty in the world at the moment, and my hope is that women will rise up and take the reins to kind of change the direction that we're going with a lot of the stuff that's going on at the moment, and that their voices will change the way that we communicate globally, because there's a real need for that better communication and clearer communication and more effective communication. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
speak some more to that, to someone, some a woman out there who feels that her voice doesn't matter. What would you say to them? How would you continue to encourage them?
I'd say your voice definitely needs to be heard, and your voice matters. And what you are, and sorry, who you are and what you say really does matter. And you might not believe it, but every voice matters. And once you start to give yourself permission to speak, um, it's almost like you've released something within yourself that can't be taken back again. So it's that wonderful feeling of freedom, where you get to a point where you think, I feel afraid, but I'm going to speak it anyway, because suddenly it doesn't yeah, you get past that point of being really held back by your fear. So
So
yeah.
speak to some of that. What are some of the small actions people can do to get started? What would that look like?
Sure. So even just like small steps, like in a work situation, just speak up in a meeting just once. Try speaking up in a meeting if that's something that you really struggle with. Or if you're in a team situation, take the lead on something, even if it's a small thing. Like I had a colleague who she was talking to me, and she said, "Oh, I got asked by my manager to lead the quiz in the morning, because they always had a work quiz from the newspaper." She said, and I turned her down because I felt scared. And so I spoke to her about that, and I said, "So next time, are you going to try?" And she said, "Yes, tomorrow I'm going to go to my manager and say I'm going to lead the work quiz." So sometimes it's just doing one little thing, to take a step, and it doesn't have to be a big step at all. So and it may be having maybe a difficult conversation with a friend or a colleague, um, and just little things that you feel that you've made a difference somewhere along the line. So yeah.
Well, great. We've really enjoyed learning from you and hearing your ideas and the ways that you're able to support women, in a number of different settings, have their voice heard. So, like, speak to where people can find and get in touch with you.
Sure. So probably one of the ways would be via my website. So that's robin-owen.com. And then on there, I also have contact information, but my email is robin@robin-owen.com. robinowen.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I also have on my website, I have the ability to also book a chat if you wanted to just book a chat and find out more. I've got a link to a calendar on there as well. So
And we'll
those.
have all of that in the description. But tell us a bit about what working with you would look like. So let's say they've identified that they want some help. They're reaching out to you. Help us understand what that process looks like.
Okay, so we would talk through what their goals would be, like what they wanted to achieve with their speaking, and what was holding them back at the moment. So some of the challenges that they were experiencing, and look at really, when they wanted to achieve that or how they wanted to achieve it, and also whether there was something that I could help them with, or even just give them a couple of tips. Um, and then if they did want to carry on working with me, then we would start looking at once again what it was they wanted to achieve. So we would personalize. I tend to personalize my coaching. I do have sort of like a program, but within that, I always personalize it depending on if they have a particular goal that they want to achieve. So yeah,
Okay, so it's an intimate one-on-one coaching and mentoring session. Okay.
yes,
Great.
yeah.
And to our audience, visit her website, get engaged, reach out to Robin. And to Robin, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your wisdom today. Thank you for the work you're doing. And we'll look forward to potentially having you back in the future to maybe give us some tips and pointers on how to increase our speaking ability.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Great.
Mm.
Well, there you have it from one of our favorite Kiwis, Robin Owen, giving us her version of her legacy. Thanks again for listening and watching. This is David Gravelle with Legacy Curious. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Don't forget, we're on our way to 100 subscribers, so please hit that subscribe button, get your friends and family to subscribe, and help us get over that 100 subscribers. Everyone has a story. Let's make sure yours is heard and remembered.